Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's last post ceremony. My name is Karis May, and joining us from the Australian Army is Major Kendall Crocker. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that support them. We acknowledge the members of RSL and Services Clubs Association, RSL Victoria and RSL Queensland, who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony from around Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the pool of reflection by visitors. To commence this evening's ceremony, I invite you all stand and join in singing the national anthem. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed at the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight, we'll read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 102,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and operations for over more than a century. But first we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths and floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the pool of reflection.
Today we pay tribute to Flight Sergeant William Stanley Hancock. William Stanley Hancock was born on the 19th of August 1921 in the Sydney suburb of Strathfield to Arthur Hancock and Mabel Jane Hancock. Little is known about William Hancock before he enlisted in the Royal Australian Air Force on the 22nd of May 1942. At the time of his enlistment, he was working as a clerk. After enlisting, Hancock began training as a navigator and bomb aimer, and before long, he embarked for overseas service. As part of the Empire training scheme, he was one of almost 27,000 RAAF pilots, navigators, wireless operators, gunners, and engineers who, throughout the course of the war, joined the Australian and British squadrons in Britain. Arriving in Britain, Hancock undertook specialist training before being posted to number 467 Squadron, Royal Australian Air Force, in February. As part of Bomber Command, number 467 Squadron flew 4-engined Avro Lancaster heavy bombers. On a mission on the night of the 10th of May 1944, the Lancaster, in which Hancock was the bomb aimer, was taking part in a large raid on the railway yards in Lille, in northern France. The raid was in support of the planned Allied landings in Normandy the following June. The raiding force came under attack from German night fighters, and Hancock's Lancaster was shot down, crashing into a factory in the southeastern suburbs of Lille. Hancock and all his fellow crewmates were killed. They were Australian Flight Sergeants Brian Gordon Grasby and Herbert Ferguson, Pilot Officer William Felstead, and the British Sergeants Charles Arthur Nash, Cyril DeThoit, and John Mellor. William Hancock was 22 years old. His body is buried in the Elam-Lille Communal Cemetery in Lille, in the Pas-de-Calais region of France. His name is listed on the Roll of Honour on my left, among some 40,000 Australians who died while serving in the Second World War. This is but one of the many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Flight Sergeant William Stanley Hancock, who gave his life for us and for our freedoms and in the hope of a better world. They shall grow not old, as we who are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them.
Lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Pozières or in the low scrub at Gallipoli, with his poor tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes this evening's last post ceremony. We would like to thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial today, and we wish you all a very good evening. Thank you.